Yamoussoukro to Bouake, we've seen incredible action over the last couple of weeks. For you, Brian, what's been your favorite game of the Afcon before we get into our agenda today?
You know when you look at a tournament of this magnitude, the first thing you think about is that are the star players going to be able to deliver.
Right.
And you always say, I love Cinderella stories. I want to see teams that nobody gave a chance come up and deliver. You know, so every Afcon I have covered, there's always been that story, a rebirth or a birth of a certain nation or somebody being engraved into the folklore going forward and all of that. I believe that Angola for me was that team.
Okay.
You know, Capo Verde, repeat what they've already done before, so there's really nothing much new they've done. Angola, yes, repeat what they've done before, but it's how they did it.
Okay.
You know, it is a path that when you look at it, you say they've got Pedro Concalves, the man in charge of Angola now. He was in a group and nobody gave him a chance against Algeria in the same group. Then Mauritania in the same group, you know. You also had Burkina Faso, if I'm not mistaken, in the same group. And for the team to be able to advance as winners of that group was something else, something special to look at.
So, Brian, the people wanted to know what your favorite game was.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm looking at the matches, and I still believe that Mauritania versus Angola was a big game for me. It was one of the best games I've watched.
Was the best? Okay. Not
because-
Cape Verde, Egypt?
Cape Verde, Egypt, the last-minute goal made it a thrilling encounter. I mean, there are a few matches. There's also the Ghana versus Mozambique, the one that saw Ghana crash out.
Okay.
You know, Mozambique scored 2 goals in referee's optional time. You know, there's another big game to talk about. Equatorial Guinea walloping Cote d'Ivoire 4-0. It's another big game to talk about. But for me, it is that game, that Angola versus Mauritania. Because Mauritania fought back, almost got a draw in that game. But it is how Angola managed to survive and fight for them to get to the next stage. Was one of the best games I've seen in this Afcon.
Oh, well, if you ask me, it was the recent encounter between South Africa and Nigeria. Listen, so many of us couldn't breathe. So many of us couldn't think. So many of us were watching the game from behind our sofas.
You know why I wouldn't probably put it as one of my best games.
Okay.
You know why? Because I knew what South Africa is capable of doing. Okay. I knew what the players we have can do. But for those that didn't know South Africa or don't know the team that we have at the moment, that's why they were surprised. You know, and I still believe that.
So the results didn't surprise you.
For
Is
me,
that what you're telling us?
For me, results should have been better. I believe that if there was any time South Africa would defeat Nigeria in an official tournament, this was the moment.
And that's what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
The South African team. For me, they were a dream to watch.
Yeah.
They really played good football. Hugo Bruce, what do you think he did to turn around the result, the Mali result, the first game?
Yeah.
He changed something.
Listen, I mean, if you look at the history of any competition, it's never how you start, but it's how you finish. You know, South Africa played their first game against Mali. They were dominating the first 30 minutes in that game. They looked very good, you know, but they just never took their chances. They never scored the goals. So eventually, Mali got hold of the game and took control and scored 2 goals. Mali won the match, you know, but it was how they came back in the next game when they played against Namibia. The Namibian game, they came back, they looked stronger.
What did they change?
What they changed was they made one big change, was in the central defense. Because in the first game, Ulu played. Ulu was out in Kemkekana. So you had a back 5, which were all Sundowns players in that second match. So the telepathy was there, understanding was there. The building from the back was much better. They just had protection ahead of Mukwena just playing there. And then they brought in also on the right-hand side. They dropped Masego, who's also from Sundowns. They dropped him and they brought in Morena on the right-hand side. So they switched flank between Pesitau, went to the left and Morena went to the right-hand side. So Thembazwana is given slight free will to be able to move and get in and do the roving stuff that he does very well. Hence, South Africa managed to find the back of the net and score 4 goals in the game against Namibia. Also, it is because the two countries...
Thembazwana rocket.
Because the two countries play similar football. Hence, it was easier for South Africa to win that game against Nigeria than Namibia, because Namibia, in fact, could have scored goals before that. They tensed South Africa a few times. Hannah Moop's crosses were unbelievable. Chiwetha looks very good going forward for the Namibians.
And there was that one-on-one they had with
Shalulile, caught in there as well,
and Kekana, was it?
Yeah, Kekana in there as well. So when you look at that overall, you realize that there was one more open game South Africa played, and this Afcon was a game against Namibia. From then onwards, they knew what they have to do going forward. All you did was a draw in the next game against Tunisia. They would have booked themselves a place in the next round.
And they did
even if they had drawn that game, Namibia had won, they were still going to finish within the top three because of the results that we actually had already. So once the job was done, it was now for the big task ahead. What lied ahead? Morocco was standing by. Morocco, a team that got to the semi-finals of the World Cup, a team that finished fourth overall in the World Cup. History makers from an African point of view, the highest ranked nation in the continent, the highest ranked African nation in the FIFA. That is rankings, 13th overall. So everything was stacked against Bafana before they even played that game, But what they did on the day was to show that the win on the 17th of June in 2021 was no fluke. They came back to show, 2023 by the way, was no fluke. They came back to show that when we won against Morocco in a game that everybody deemed a dead rubber, was no fluke. We can show what you can do at the highest level. And against that Moroccan team that looked solid, they managed to win. A date with Cape Verde was always going to be very tricky because Cape Verde proving to be the surprise team of this tournament. I still feel that the Cape Verde coach made a mistake the game against South Africa.
How so?
Gary Rodriguez was a problem for South Africa.
Taking Rodriguez
Taking him out and then bringing in Bebe. Bebe brings you that impetus with the long-range shots, but doesn't have the sort of skills and the flair that Rodriguez brings you. Taking out Mendes.
Bebe looked like he was past it.
Yeah. Ryan Mendes for me, taking Ryan Mendes out was a problem as well for me. I could have left Ryan Mendes because he's always been the thorn. Every time he has played. When you think the game is lost, he managed to get what was needed in matches. So taking him off allows South Africa to breathe a bit. Allow them to start playing the game a bit. And that's when penalties were the one they decided at the end of the day.
All right, now speaking about penalties, the new finance minister, the man that could save the South African economy.
Yeah.
The man that people have gone as far as saying could even save marriages. Ronwen Williams.
Yeah.
Were those bad penalties or good goalkeeping?
Listen, what South Africa does very well, they've got a team of analysts. The assistant coach is a former goalkeeper, Grant Johnson. So he sits on a bench and he has worked with Ronwen Williams from the time he arrived at SuperSport United as 12 years. He arrived there when he was only a 12-year-old. He was a SuperSport for 19 years before he moved to Sundowns. One. Number two, you have Sinasipo Mali, who sits there, he analyzes football like it's going out of fashion. He's gone and gotten his papers from UEFA, you talk about, he's been there. So they had actually studied Cape Verde and realized where will they take their penalties if they had to take any, and then how he can be able to handle it. And like a script in a very good written movie from Steven Spielberg that got delivered on a field of play, because the penalty was shot exactly the way they thought they would take them. Hence, he made the saves and therefore making history, becoming the first goalkeeper to save four penalties in any competition. Something if competition is sanctioned by FIFA or CAF. So it is something that is huge from a South African point of view. But what I was worried about, Adelani, I have to say, is after that match when South Africa had won, a lot of people started, because I was doing commentary in the game, the Nigeria-South Africa game, a lot of people started saying, you know what? This game must just go to penalties. We have the minister there who's going to be able to save everything. And I thought, there's a difference between playing certain teams and certain nations. And there are those that have the BMT. There are those don't actually have
BMT?
Big match temperament.
Oh.
So there's those that have it. There are those that have it, there are those that don't have. And a Nigerian team that is looking hungry. Because Nigerian history is always we dominate Africa. We're a dominant nation. They've been usurped by your Senegal, who are looking better, Morocco, who are looking better, The Egyptians have had more titles, and all of that. So the pride, you are Nigerian, and the pride of the nation itself is something else. So they were never going to allow themselves to find themselves playing second fiddle. Also, there's also debate around whether Victor Osimhen, as the main man now on the continent, having done so well for his team, having done so well in Nigeria since he joined the national team to become part of the team, overall, what he can deliver. A former youth player of the tournament when he was playing in the youth tournament under 70 level, eventually graduated, become part of the team of the senior team of Nigeria, without some key players who were unable to come to the tournament. The Boniface of this world, indeed of this world, not being able to be part of the tournament itself. So it was now for him to step up and show exactly that him winning the award was no fluke, And I mean, I remember the first game when you guys played against Equatorial Guinea. When the goal down, 2 minutes later, he found the back of net to equalize. And then the second game when he played, it was how he created a penalty that was eventually scored by that is Trustin Kong.
Yes.
And then the third game was how Nigeria piled pressure on the opposition to get an own goal scored.
Oh, and they were, I felt they were terrible in that game.
But they got the result. They got the job done.
I felt like all the players played like they were all wearing a pair of Timberland shoes, and it was their soccer boots were too heavy for them.
Yeah.
And the whole nation was actually concerned that we needed our own goal.
Yeah.
To win that match.
But let's talk about it. I mean, when you look at the number game before the tournament started off, Nigeria are always going to be sitting amongst the favorites to win the tournament. Anyway, at any given tournament that you're playing, your nation is always going to come up as one to win the tournament. But if you look at the balance of play, the fact that they were held by Equatorial Guinea in the first game, Equatorial Guinea proved there were no pushovers when they went and walloped the host nation 4-0. But like the former Sundowns coach Peter Musimani used to say when he was still at Adelani, was that you don't have to win all the group matches for you to be able to advance to the next round.
Yes.
Just do enough for you to advance.
Yes,
and get to the knockout stage, start playing football like a team that wants to win it when you get to that level. So I think that's the difference between how Nigeria went, because they grew with every match they played, they got better.
Yes.
They got better, and you could start seeing shape and the way they're playing. And what also was impressive with me, Coach Peseiro made changes given the occasion was playing on a day. So he had a formation where he had a 4-4-2, a 4-3-3 in fact some stage, moved it to make it a 3-5-2 situation, moved it to make it a 3-4-3 situation with allowing the...
It depends on the
who is
situation
playing,
and who is playing.
There's been some impressive players from a Nigerian point of view. Aina has, for me, been a brilliant player to watch.
Right.
Sanusi has been brilliant to see also.
That penalty.
Yeah. I mean, Sanusi for me, yesterday, what was the surprise from a South African point of view, I have to say. I think South Africa planned with a Sanusi playing. When Sanusi didn't play yesterday.
And it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because Sanusi offers us a lot going
forward.
And defensively also.
Yeah. So when Sanusi was not there, and you saw Bright Samuel coming in yesterday, I think that actually upset South Africans a bit because they didn't know how to handle him. But also what is very important is that, for me, Iyobi never showed up. I don't care who says what. Iyobi, for the sort of caliber of a player he is, never showed up in the tournament at all. Onyeka became the man that literally was holding things and making sure things go well. Ajayi at the back alongside Trostekong were solid.
Let me tell you, and there's a superstar that I need to talk about in this Nigerian team. His name is Calvin Bassey.
Oh, Bassey has done
Fulham.
Bassey has done
My
very well.
goodness.
But Bassey was lucky in one match and he never...
reminds me of Taribo West.
But also, the fact that Bassey was never sent off one of the matches, I think it was a big thing, because the tackle he took, where he was sitting on a yellow card, and he still demonstrated and even pushed the player. And I thought to myself, he's skating on thin ice. And the fact that the referee never sent him off for that, it meant Nigeria still have the upper hand, because in every game he played, he did well. In a game they played against South Africa, there was a moment where South Africa were attacking and it went wide on the right-hand side of the field. He had his hands tucked behind his body. The shot was taken and ball struck his hand. But you saw how he guided Lepasa when Lepasa had the ball trying to get inside. Yes. How he managed to force Pesita wide. How he managed to make sure that Mahopa does not have the space and time to be able to move on. Because once South Africa started playing the ball on the ground, you could see that Ekong and Ajay were struggling. But Basi still stood firm, still made sure he did the job that needed to be done. And that's the story of the day. But when you look at all of that, Adelani, you realize one thing, that this tournament gives birth to new heroes.
True.
You know,
True.
The story of Osimhen will probably be one that's going to be spoken about in folklore for the longest of time.
What does a guy have to do to score a goal, for goodness sake? He's had the most disqualified goals of the tournament, 4.
Yeah.
That is a record in itself. Like, I don't think any...
Disqualified. Explain what disqualified is.
That VAR just...
It's not a goal.
Spoils your
we move
joy.
on. We move on. It's not a goal, my
See?
friend. It's not a goal.
Victor has experienced that 4 times in this tournament.
But it's not a goal. When
So
a foul
Cameroon-
has happened, it's not a goal.
Against Cameroon, the header. Now recently against South Africa, I think it
The Cameroon one should have been a goal. I
Yes.
covered that game. That
I
should have
mean,
been a goal.
that
There was
was-
nothing wrong with the tech. There was nothing wrong with what happened in that game. There was also a goal that was scored by Nigeria in the same game,
Yes.
where they felt there was a foul. There was nothing wrong with that goal also. You know, so
what the goal the penalty shout yesterday for South Africa.
not that one. There was a
Oh,
game
that
that
was
South
a
Africa,
clear
that Nigeria
penalty.
played, where there was the players pushing up, and they felt that he came from an offside position. That shouldn't have been. It should have been a clear cut goal.
Yeah.
Was never given as a goal.
Because it was his fingernail. It was his fingernail that was offside. I mean, can you believe this?
Listen, you know what is very interesting about this, what you're saying now, is that we had this discussion off air around the performance of the Nigerian team in the competition. If you had to rate them out of 10, where do you put them? Let's forget the fact they're in a final. Rate them match by match how they performed.
Oh man, not only football that can kill
No,
you.
don't
on
worry.
the
Lagos, they will allow you to step in when you come in
Let me-
Abuja as well. Don't worry.
Let me tell you, before the tournament started,
Yeah.
I didn't rate their chances at all.
Yeah.
I looked at Coach Pacero's resume, his credentials, and I wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't even beat Lesotho before the Nations Cup. No offense to Lesotho, but
Zimbabwe as well.
yes, so the whole nation just felt like we were going there to make the numbers.
Yeah.
And just to tick the attendance register. But the first game, we've had this conversation of every Nigerian wasn't particularly impressed, because I guess, with the weather, we didn't enjoy, like, Nigeria traditionally has played slow football.
Yeah.
But that day we were like, damn, guys, can you just move the ball a bit faster so that we wouldn't all go to sleep? It felt like watching paint drying, even though they made opportunities in the first game. But I
Yeah.
would rate them in the first game out of 10, a 6. A 5, I'm just adding a 1 for them putting their shirt on the right way.
You know why I was asking you that? It is because, like I said, every tournament brings a birth to a certain storyteller. Somebody's going to come up with a different tale going forward, I know there are players that are sitting on the bench of Nigeria thinking now, Ahmed Musa, who's thinking that, I win this one, I'm going to become the first to do it, to be able to win two tournament.
Ahmed Musa,
it's a big one.
A PhD in bench warming.
So he's been sitting on the bench trying to get a time, but I mean, things have been very tight. I just hope that he gets a run in the final. No matter the
maybe.
results. No matter the results for me.
And 1 minute to the end, with Nigeria leading 2-0,
One player for me, Adelani.
football legend,
Yeah.
but that's another argument for another day.
I see.
Could that space have been occupied
Yeah.
by someone that could actually help the team forward? Ahmed Musa's had his time for me.
Listen, I mean, something you got to give the Nigerian coach credit for, is the fact that Kelechi was sitting on a bench, never played a game in the Afcon. Came in when he mattered the most against South Africa.
And that was due to injury.
I mean, it was
also.
him and Murphy that came on. They changed the game completely. South Africa then was slightly on the back foot. Yes, Trost Tong at Ekong had to take one for the team when literally held on to my umbrella, bringing him there and saying, you know what, you're going nowhere. It is either you or something else, but I'm not going to let you go. And that's a big thing when you look at the whole thing. And then that's one. Then number 2, you have a situation where you talk about how when it was right at the death when a penalty shootout stood up and scored a penalty that actually got Nigeria into the promised
doing
land.
his best Mbappe impersonation there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was particularly impressed with his leadership.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy having the nerves to step up, take 2 penalties in the same game against, Williams has been hyped leading up to that game.
I think if you look at it overall, I believe that South African players somehow became a bit naive yesterday. They never expected themselves to be in ascendance like that against Nigeria. There's some moments where, just cool, calm heads were needed. Just to be able to get the ball and then know where you are, understand where you are, look around, have the feeling of where you are, and score a goal. And there were moments, and Pesitau, the chances that they actually had yesterday, you give them those when he's playing at Adelani, probably would have scored 2 or 3 of those when he had a chance. There was a brilliant save by Nwabali to deny Evidence Mahope a chance to find the back of the net.
Look, and Nwabali, I've always said, is built like a money truck. He's a huge, imposing figure. So, I actually felt like South Africa tried to take their chances. It was just the first half.
Decision making was bad. I believe there were some moments where you should have just shared the ball much better. And then we never saw the trademark Tebo Mokoena shots from range.
Yes, I think those only had one shot on range.
The one that he took from a set piece was pumped back into play and could have been a goal if Modawi had converted that. But that's literally right in the last 5 seconds of that match for South Africa to be able to seal it up. But that's another story. But I mean, if you look at overall, for me, I say this has been a very good tournament overall. Number of penalties scored 17. 5 penalties not converted. 4 of those were missed and 1 was saved. We have had drama as far as record of goals. Have scored 116 already before we even get to the last 2 matches of this competition.
Incredible.
17. We're talking about 13 red cards in total in this competition. And that's been the story. That's been the story of how things have gone. But I mean, getting to the final now, you're playing against a Cote d'Ivoire, the host nation. Records are stacked against a team that is not a host nation in the final. On 7 occasions.
That thing, my brother.
So I'm saying that 7 nations have managed to get into the final as host, managed to win it. 7 nations that won it as host, 3 have lost it as host. You got to go 1965,
make it 4 after
1982, and then you got also to go to 2000. Nigeria is one of those that you lost at home.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
So
2000, painful, painful.
Yeah. So I'm saying that what also makes it more interesting from where I'm sitting, Adelani, is how Cote d'Ivoire got back into the tournament. That is what makes it more interesting because they were knocked out.
Yes.
Their coach packed. Then they took in MS5 to take over the team, former player who's been there, understands the dynamics, under 23 coach of the Ivorians. He was sitting as an assistant coach. He eventually gets elevated to be the coach himself. Tweaks the players a bit. That's when a Kessie start coming to the party. Hala didn't score it in forever. Hala scored a goal against DR Congo to get him into the final. Now you start seeing this, the belief that comes up. The fans start believing in them again. They're in a final now. What's the worst thing that can happen to them? They were knocked out already in the group stages.
They can lose.
If they lose the final, I don't think everybody look at how they fought back. They'll remember the story of they fought back. Nigeria, though, has a lot more to lose because they went about their business much better.
Yes, in a professional manner.
Yeah.
I like the professional
They raised your hopes. I mean, that is why you had
they raised it.
palpitations yesterday because of that, because you felt that should wrap this thing up.
Yes.
Why are they doing this to me?
Yes. Okay, so quickly, before we go, just want to ask you the future of South African football. I feel like the next Nations Cup, South Africa is in for a shout. No doubt about it.
I'm looking forward to the World Cup qualifier matches. They've got Nigeria in the same group. They've got, so they're looking forward to see how they want to handle that one. They've got Rwanda, they've got Lesotho, they've got Zimbabwe in the same group. So I'm looking forward to that. Before we even get to the Afcon, I'm looking forward to the next matches in the qualifiers, how they're going to fare.
So the future's bright for South Africa.
The future's bright. I believe that we keep the coach, or we probably bring in a support team around him. We're looking very good going forward. Okay. And all of the best to the teams. There's a final Nigeria against that is Cote d'Ivoire.
Well, we'll settle it off air because Mr. Bryan's probably going to lose his bet to me. I say Cote d'Ivoire is going to be the 4th host nation to lose a final. And you could quote me on that anywhere. Hopefully, this comment doesn't come back to bite me.
What did you promise to get me? Jollof, eh?
Yes. I go give
that.
him correct jollof and pepper soup if Niger lose that final. Niger, we know they grieve for nobody.
Yeah.
On that note, goodbye, everybody. Till next time.
I saw a cherry